The Nintendo DS, released in Japan on the 21st of November 2004, it revolutionised the handheld gaming market with over 133 million units sold worldwide, making it the second best-selling games console of all time, just behind the PS2. Now as the console reaches its 10th birthday, we can take a look back at this gaming icon. To get a better understanding of where the DS was coming from, we need to look back at Nintendo's past. Before the DS, there was the Game Boy line, starting in 1989 with the original Game Boy and running all the way through to the Game Boy Micro in 2005. The key to the series' success was backwards compatibility, with each console being able to play the previous as games and multiplayer capabilities via the Game Boy Link cable. This is something that can clearly be seen on the DS. This is my rather battered teal original DS. It comes with a top 3-inch LCD screen with stereo speakers, a 3-inch resistive touchscreen, power, start select, buttons, a D-pad and ABXY buttons. Along the bottom is a bicoloured power and charging indicators, as well as a microphone. On the front side is a volume slider, proprietary headset input and a 3.5mm headphone jack, as well as a slot for playing Game Boy Advance games and for inserting optional extra packs. Along the top is a lanyard loop, stylus, holder, power adapter and DS game card slot. Inside the DS there are two processors, a 66MHz ARM chip for DS games and a 33MHz ARM chip for Wi-Fi, sound and Game Boy emulation. There's 4MB of RAM, expandable to a whole 12MB via an optional game pack that only officially worked with the DS Opera browser. Later on down the line in 2006, a Lite model was released. This, as the name suggests, was smaller in every dimension, had a better lit screen, but an awful mashy D-pad. The games themselves came on ROM chips and in square boxes. Usually the boxes came with instruction manuals, remember when games used to come with them, health and safety info, a Club Nintendo membership card and membership points, and a Nintendo Wi-Fi booklet if the game supported the Nintendo Wi-Fi network. And there were a lot of very high quality games released for the DS. However, the DS could perform certain actions without a game card even needing to be inserted. You could change the settings obviously and recalibrate the resistive touchscreen. Use Pictochat, which was a kind of local chatting service where you could link your DS up peer-to-peer with another DS using the Wi-Fi and send messages and little pictures and all that fun stuff. As well as this was the key to the DS's success, Download Play, which allows users to play games with their friends even if they didn't own the game that they wanted to play. On the screen now will be an example of this working with Mario Kart. It also allowed users to send and store game demos in the console's RAM, which they could then play for as long as they wanted, unless the game had some arbitrary time limit, until they switched the DS off, where all the data from RAM would be lost. The games themselves were usually fairly high quality, with my personal favourites being Super Mario Bros. And Mario Kart DS. As well as peer-to-peer multiplayer, the DS also featured an online multiplayer service called Nintendo Wi-Fi. This was essentially like the matchmaking service from modern networks like PSN and Xbox Live, and surprisingly is still actually up and running just. However, no one really plays on it. One thing to bear in mind is that the Nintendo DS can only connect up to WEP networks or networks with no encryption, so it can be tricky connecting up to modern routers that use WAP or WAP2, or in some cases even better technology than that. The GBA slot, the console, could also be used to connect a limited number of official accessories, and lots of unofficial ones as well, like for example a Rumble Pack, an MP3 player, unofficial ones like for example an Action Replay which allowed you to cheat in games, and the aforementioned Memory Expansion Pack that was used only officially with the DS browser. However, a lot of homebrew stuff works a lot better with the extra RAM. This, in my opinion, was the coolest thing about the DS, as it amazed my 2006 self to be able to connect to the internet on something so small, because you've got to remember the iPhone was still a few years away. The internet was still fairly new and exciting, and not many people, especially around where I live, actually had the internet. As with many ROM-based systems, there are many flash cards released for the system that allow you to play game backups that can be loaded onto an SD or micro SD card. This one I'm showing you now is called an R4 card. It lets you load up backups. It also lets you play cheats, run homebrew, swap saves between cards, and emulate on Nintendo consoles. So for example, I've got Mega Man 10 running on the SNES emulator. All in all, the DS is an amazing handheld for its time, and still to this day is one of my favourite consoles. What was your favourite thing about the DS, or do you have a different favourite console? Leave your comments below.